Testing, 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 and testing.
Testing, testing,
Okay,
testing.
okay. We can hear me. All right. Let me know how things sound, and I'm going to put on my admin bots and go to town for a little bit. We're going to get through this eventually. Okay? We're going to get through this eventually. Wait, test. Testing. Okay, we're good. We're good. What in the absolute shit, bro? What is this? Hold on a sec. What the fuck is with the chat box? Christ, bro. Okay, we gotta reset this fucking chat box. It's gonna drive me nuts. Bro. Okay. Okay. Alright, I'm just gonna delete the chat box. Love the chat box. Pet the chat box. Hate the chat box. Okay, we're gonna. Fuck. We're gonna go ahead and add it back in. I don't know what the fucking problem is here. Holy shit. Okay. Jesus H. Christ, man. Nothing but issues over here. Anna, you guys stay over there, honey. Hold on a sec. Alright, nope, that's not enough. 300? 300 maybe? Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank ya. Okay. We shall see if this works. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I feel like maybe we need to make the chat box a little bit bigger. So, one sec. Anna, I love you, kitty. You're a good girl. She's trying so hard to come over here right now, and I'm like, no, no, ma'am. I'm like, no, ma'am. Absolutely the fuck not. Absolutely the fuck not. Okay, we're gonna. I don't know what the fucking problem is here. I really don't. What the absolute shit? Hold on a sec here. I want to test something. I want to test something with my. Okay, we're good. Fucking A. That was bizarre. Okay, perfect. We're good to go. Do let me know if you can't hear me very well because I'm happy to work on that. We're changing our setup a little bit with camera. It was a camera, a different camera. We're changing our setup a little bit with several things actually. Okay, let's scoot things over a skosh. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna make me a little smaller. That's okay. That's okay. Kind of make that just a teensy weensy bit smaller. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Let's dive back into it. It shouldn't need to be said, but just in case, obviously trigger warning for like extreme misogyny and fucking racism and God knows what. A lot of stuff going on here. So let's back up here to the OMB, or sorry, Office of Budget Resources and Management, which I think is a function of the OMB. So, as it says here, the Director of Budget Resources and Management should be a political appointee empowered as part of the Administrator's senior management team. BRM's highest priorities should be to prepare the report required by Section 653A, according to the Administrator's guidance, institute a fast-track process for the submission of congressional notifications, and identify already appropriated resources to reprogram immediately to fund the new administration's priority. Ugh, no, Anna, Jesus Christ. I swear to God. I swear to fuck. I'm sorry. She is adorable and also very adorably annoying. Anna, I love you, honey. I just don't want you doing that, okay? My little favorite, my little baby. She literally is my little darling favorite. Anna, I love you, baby. I just want you to stay there, would ya? Okay. So interesting that they seem to want to do a lot more restructuring and rededicating, something that was budgeted for thing A to thing B and that sort of thing. Interesting stuff. Oh, let me try. Whoa, hey, please, kitty. Let me try something real fast here, guys. No, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay. Okay, please. Would you please stop? She has to be right here 24/7. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, but okay. Is that cat logic? You gotta be as close to mommy as possible. Okay. So, Institute, wow. BRM's highest priority should be to prepare the report required by Section 653A according to the administrator's guidance, institute a fast track process. I'm sorry if you can hear purring and rumbling. For the really submission of congressional notifications and identify already appropriated resources to reprogram immediately to fund the new administration's priorities. And again, when they say the new administration or the incoming administration, they're talking about Donald Trump and they're talking about right now. They're not talking about some other administration. I know you guys know that, but just let's keep it a buck if anybody here is new. Okay, so the next conservative administration, i.e. Donald Trump, i.e. right now, should consider prioritizing the placing, it says, of young political appointees in BRM over LPA. Interesting. So, wait a minute. So they're talking about putting young political appointees in, but then they don't want quote-unquote career public servants. But yet they're talking about raising people through the ranks. I find that to be interesting. Bureau for Democracy, Development, and Innovation. Let's go ahead and copy this and put this in our notes. Paste this into our notes in Discord. If you would get off my boob, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. I'm being abused by a cat. God damn it. Anna. Please. It really is very annoying. Stop. Please, ma'am. 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 Madam. You little shit stick. You little fucker, you. I love you. Anna Marie. Okay. So I'm going to just put in a little bloopity beepity boop over here, pardon me, and say, okay, are you all right, baby? You doing okay? Okay, you're a good girl. I gotta be able to type, okay, Miss Choochie Boochie? Oh my God, she's right on the keyboard. That's fine. Notes, and I'm just gonna say, this seems an odd stance to take. Stance, if I could type, seeing that, hi kitty, they spent most of this document so far talking about giving lifetime public sector employees and public servants the boot. And as we know, ouch, as we know, and as we can guess, I guess I should say, this is more likely to do with just, we don't want their people here, we want our people here, sort of a thing. So this isn't so much, we now all of a sudden have changed our stance and want career public servants to be welcomed in our administration. No, this is very, very much, hey, we want to develop people. We want to develop our own assets, basically. We want to develop our own assets, right, Anna? We want to develop our own people to stay here over, a period of years. So, again, rules for thee, not for me. Bureau for Democracy, Development, and Innovation. A key outcome of the transformation of U.S. aid undertaken during the Trump administration, the Bureau for Democracy, Development, and Innovation, DDI, is the home for most of the agency's non-health, non-humanitarian funding, as well as almost all of its sectoral appropriations directives, including those that reflect the pet projects of individual members of Congress. That's a weird way to put it. The Bureau is the policy and financial nexus. I'm sorry. And move, okay? If it's bothering you. Okay, I'm sorry. She's like, how dare that be right by my eye, Mommy? She says, how dare you do that, Mommy? That's what she says. Mommy, please. I need to be comfy here. I'm sorry, I got cuddle the kitty for a minute. She's precious. Oh no, you're my precious baby. Yeah, Mommy adores you. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Okay, there's some cuddles for baby Anna. Baby Chooch. Chooch Goochie. Okay, so odd phrasing of pet projects of individual members of Congress. The Bureau is the policy and financial nexus, again, at USAID for most of the Biden administration's radical priorities in foreign assistance, including gender, climate change, and the promotion of identity-based politics. On the positive side, DDI is also the Bureau in charge of areas that will be crucial to a reorientation of USAID, including trade, economic growth, innovation partnerships with the private sector, and the agency's relationship with communities of faith. The next conservative administration, i.e. Donald Trump, i.e. right now, should make the rapid staffing of key DDI positions a high priority. Besides the Senate-confirmed assistant administrator, the directors of each of the centers and hubs in the Bureau will need political leadership. Almost every one of the agency-wide policies that cover DDI's areas of responsibility will need to be edited or rewritten entirely as soon as possible. The next conservative administration, Trump, now should harvest DDI's central appropriations to fund new priorities, especially working with ethnic and religious minorities and faith-based organizations and joint ventures with the private sector in education and energy. All DDI programs should issue funding opportunities restricted to new and underutilized partners modeled on the NPI. Really quick, we're just gonna yeah, I don't even think that's necessary. We're good. We'll keep it moving. Okay. That's wild. So on the again, as it says, on the positive side, blah blah blah, they want to restructure it. It's in charge of economic growth, innovation partnership. The next, yeah, Donald Trump right now, blah blah blah. Okay. Should harvest DDI's central appropriations to fund new priorities, especially working with ethnic and religious minorities and faith-based organizations, i.e. passing things off to churches, and joint ventures with the private sector in education and energy. All DDI programs should issue funding opportunities restricted to new and underutilized partners modeled on the NPI. Regions, Asia is the most populous continent and ground zero in the battle against communist China's efforts to exploit the development needs of poor countries for geopolitical gain. America's Indo-Pacific strategy should guide USAID's approaches to disbursing foreign aid in the region. USAID should intensify its bilateral relationships with pro-free market Japan. Yes, Japan is extremely conservative, so Australia, South Korea, and India, so that they can jointly advance private sector solutions to secure financing for power generation, infrastructure, digital connectivity, investment and trade expansion, and other economic activities. USAID enjoys a strong in-country presence in India, buttressed by recent coordination on the global response to COVID-19, as India is a global leader in vaccine production. You're not supposed to admit that vaccines exist and work. Not appropriate. Not okay. That's unacceptable, guys. Sorry. Totally unacceptable. Okay. So interesting. Those ties should be expanded. So too should development cooperation with Taiwan, which boasts effective pandemic response capacity that should be shared with developing countries. China's island hopping efforts to capture vulnerable Pacific states is a direct strategic threat to U.S. maritime supremacy and homeland security, and U.S. aid and its allied donors rather should neutralize these efforts to the deployment of targeted assistance, such as helping countries combat the effects of China's illegal fishing. While China outpaces the ability of the Democratic Alliance to deploy state backed financing to developing countries, it is unable to compete with our collective private sector capacity to deploy trillions of dollars of capital. Pakistan is a prime example of foreign aid policies disconnected from U.S. national interests. The country has been the recipient of more than $12 billion in U.S. foreign aid since 2010, yet it remains intensely anti-American and corrupt. Okay. Has backed the Taliban continuously since 2001, jump-started North Korea's nuclear bomb program, like Soros, hello, brutalizes its religious minorities, and is a willing client of China while taking on unrepayable loans from the U.S. taxpayer-funded International Monetary Fund and World Bank. And obviously, I mean, if the United States isn't helping them, then fucking China will. You just said it yourself, guys. Come on. Now, that being said, it's interesting that they're framing Pakistan as a place that is harsh on religious minorities. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying, like, what an interesting premise based on the fact that Pakistan exists literally because hi kitty, because they broke off from India because India is a majority Hindu state. It's a majority Hindu country, and the Muslim people from India wanted their own country. So, I mean, it's a weird line in the sand, but like, okay. I mean, I will say this though: the India specifically and Hindu as a religion in general, like, is much more conservative. Although there are certainly conservative Islamic states too, but with Hindu, there is the term Hindutva. If you look that up, you'll find some interesting information. It's similar to the sort of white supremacist sides of religion that we see here, Christianity specifically in the United States. So moving on, the Middle East. Pardon me. My allergies are on fire. The Middle East is far more vulnerable today than it was in 2020 because the Biden administration's strategy for the region is adrift. Tunisia has slid into autocracy. Now, a couple other countries who have slid into autocracy too. Iraq is plummeting further into Iran's orbit. And U.S. soldiers continue to risk their lives for unclear ends amid the ruins of Syria. Meanwhile, billions of dollars in U.S. foreign aid props up regimes allied with Iran. President Trump's Abraham Accords signaled the end of the centrality of the Arab-Israeli conflict, which paralyzed U.S. approaches to the region and focused instead on Iran as the principal threat to America from this region. During the Trump administration, part one, obviously, is what they're talking about, U.S. aid allocations reflected the new opportunities created by the Accords and sought to strengthen regional alliances against Iran through expanded regional trade and investment and to promote genuine political stability tethered to strong pardon me, fuck. One sec. American leadership. U.S. aid formally partnered with the United Arab Emirates, Israel, Morocco, Qatar, and Kuwait to catalyze regional partnerships in Africa. Under the Biden administration, however, U.S. aid has returned to a model that deepens the region's dependence on aid. A new conservative president, i.e. Trump right now, should reset U.S. aid's programming in the Middle East in line with our national security interests and committed, to the goal of ending the need for foreign aid through development that is led by the private sector. Jesus Christ. Pawn it all off on churches, pawn it all off on the private sector. Specifically, foreign aid must advance the Abraham Accords. Increased trade and investment between Israel and its Arab neighbors represent the most effective path toward reducing poverty, fostering the emergence of a middle class, and solidifying peace. Hey, at least some country will have a middle class, right? Because we don't. U.S. aid should therefore focus on its development assistance on countries such as Morocco and Sudan through joint investment collaboration with the more economically advanced economies such as the UAE and Israel. U.S. aid should consider cutting aid to states allied to Iran, limiting assistance in these countries to the advancement of narrow strategic priorities and support for basic American values such as aid to persecuted religious minorities. U.S. aid continues to expend hundreds of millions of dollars in non-humanitarian aid to antagonistic regimes in Iraq, Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories. After billions of dollars of aid and many years of effort, these countries remain hopelessly dysfunctional, a fact that exposes the failure of a foreign aid model that is disconnected to our national security and without exit strategies to promote self-reliance. We must admit that U.S. aid's investments in the education sector, for example, serve no other purpose than to subsidize rather corrupt, incompetent, and hostile regimes. U.S. aid should undergo operational changes to secure better development outcomes by reducing its mission's footprints in the Middle East, given that most personnel in the region are unable to leave their highly protected and expensive compounds and carry out their oversight functions. It should redirect program funding away from expensive and poorly performing international partners to more cost-effective local entities that require a minimal U.S. aid field presence. Africa, since its inception, we know that Africa is a continent, right, guys? I hope. I don't want to be too, optimistic here, but I'm just going to go ahead and hope these authors understand that. We'll see. Africa, since its inception, USAID has had a strong presence in Africa, saving millions of lives through its pandemic and infectious disease responses. Again, acknowledging pandemic existence, bad, naughty. Tim Pool says, "What? Shut up." To that. Okay. So, pandemic and infectious disease responses, especially for malaria and HIV/AIDS, that has led global efforts to provide life-saving emergency assistance to those who are fleeing conflict and suffering from devastating natural disasters. American generosity knows no equal. Yet the agency's efforts to reduce poverty and hunger have failed as it spends ever higher amounts of aid partnering with a costly and ineffective aid industrial complex that has little interest in working itself out of a job. Again, source on that one? You think? Maybe, guys? Anyway. Long-term, multi-billion-dollar humanitarian responses lack exit strategies, while numerous development projects lead neither to measurable results nor to government reforms. Despite the tens of billions of dollars spent, the continent remains... Oh, they know it's a continent. There's one good thing. The continent remains poor, unstable, and riven with conflict, corruption, and Islamic terrorism. This situation has also resulted in vast illegal migration from the continent. Failure to generate wealth has provided opportunities for China to step in. and become the continent's leader in trade, loans, and investment. So they want the cobalt mines, I guess. They don't give a shit about the African people. We just want, I guess, the cobalt mines. That's fun. Probably some diamond mines and fucking emerald mines too, right? Just throw them in there with the cobalt mines. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. So again, as a result, Beijing controls most of the continent's strategic minerals that are critical to advanced technology. Okay. Moreover, U.S. aid is criticized by Africans for exporting cultural values that are anathema to their traditional norms, further abetting Chinese continental supremacy. They're really obsessed with China in this one. The Biden administration's radical global climate policies have cut off billions in investment to develop clean fossil fuels, denying Africa's billion-plus people access to cheap energy to further their own development and finance their own social services in health, water, education, and agriculture, while increasing its dependence on China's renewable industry. It has exacerbated hunger by increasing the cost of fertilizers to levels that many African farmers can no longer afford. Poverty inducing, that's not really what's happening, but fair enough, I guess. Poverty inducing dependence on aid grows daily. Actually, what's happening in many African countries is that private companies are exploiting them so drastically, are exploiting the natural resources so drastically that there is almost no way of replenishing them, right? So that's what's actually happening in African countries. And so, yeah, they do actually need help from groups like U.S. aid. And no, we don't want to farm it out to private corporations. That's insano talk. Like, the way these people talk, it's like private corporations and churches are the answer to everything. All of the world's ills, in fact. Anyhow. Critically, it must hold. Critically, it must hold China accountable for its extractive investments that violate international labor, environmental, and anti-corruption norms and practices, undercut business opportunities for U.S. companies, and sabotage Africa's development. U.S. aid in collaboration with the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, U.S. Department of State, U.S. Department of the Treasury, and U.S. Department of Commerce's Foreign Commercial Service should use its convening power, diplomatic heft, and risk-reducing instruments to facilitate U.S.-African business relationships and expand Prosper Africa, launched by the Trump administration to bring together services from across the U.S. government to help companies and investors do business in U.S. and African markets. Also, what is this weird little typo? Like, are we doing wingdings? Are these Egyptian hieroglyphs? What's happening here, guys? Anyway, like, honestly, the fucking grammar, punctuation, spelling, it's all a mess. It's not cute. They're not keeping it cute here. I hate to say. God forbid. The Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, provides African duty-free access to U.S. markets. Yeah, as if that's going to help. The next administration, i.e. Donald Trump right now, should extend AGOA beyond its 2025 term, but within a strategic framework that rewards good governments and pro-free market economic policies. Sorry, I've got cat hair on my face now. There is no point in wasting massive sums of aid to countries whose governments fail to keep their promises to reform. U.S. aid should build on, not compete with, private sector initiatives launched by global churches, corporate philanthropists, and diaspora groups that have already invested billions of dollars in self-reliance-based projects. Again, I say, why are we handing all of this shit off to private fucking investors, private companies, and churches? That's insane. That's nuts. That's not going to work. Japan has committed $30 billion in aid to Africa. Oh, I guess problem solved then. over 3 years to stem China's economic and political grip on the continent. Gulf-based sovereign funds are. Oh, I hate the fucking grammar here. I'm sorry, it drives me nuts. Also are investing billions in African energy, infrastructure, mining, water, food production, information and communications technology, and other strategic industries. Other allied donors are promoting investment-based aid. There's no lack of funding to support Africa's economic rise. What is lacking is strategic direction among U.S. government foreign aid agencies. Bro, what? PEPFAR has saved countless lives over the years and constitutes, if I could read tonight, America's most successful aid program. During the Trump administration, part one, obviously, PEPFAR was a mess, but anyway, PEPFAR increased the share of funding to local entities from about 20% to nearly 70%, with commensurate improvements that have had lasting impact. The next administration, i.e. Trump right now, should extend that localization model to all global health and humanitarian assistance in view of how local African entities have strengthened their capacity for direct management of U.S. programs. Correspondingly, U.S. aid should aggressively ramp down its partnership with wasteful, costly, and politicized UN agencies, international NGOs, and Beltway contractors. Y'all use Beltway contractors for everything. I don't want to hear about it. All new programs in Africa should build on existing local initiatives that enjoy the support of the African people. Latin America, U.S. foreign assistance throughout the Western Hemisphere is designed to respond to national security threats that emanate from the region, such as illicit drug and arms trafficking. I mean, if we didn't fight the war on drugs, we wouldn't be spending so much money on the war on drugs, huh? But hey, who am I? My lips get so dry talking. And I got cat fur in my lip gloss. I can't handle it. Illegal immigration flows, terrorism, pandemics, and strategic threats from China, Russia, and Iran. Over the past decade, the United States has provided billions of dollars in security, humanitarian, and development assistance, in Central America and the Andes, including $1 billion in food and non-food emergency aid to millions of Venezuelan refugees who have fled the Maduro dictatorship. Well, anyway. U.S. aid is always first to respond to natural disasters in Central America and the Caribbean, and plays a network of dedicated experts in the region to deliver this assistance. During the COVID pandemic, the United States provided millions of doses of vaccines and other emergency health support. I mean, Maduro is languishing at the MCC in Manhattan right now, so we're Epstein. Okay, we gotta help the kitty get down from here without falling. Good girl, there you go. We kidnapped him, so yay, I guess. Problem solved. Okay, yet years of foreign aid have failed to bring peace, prosperity, and stability to the hemisphere. Poverty, joblessness, and social unrest have led to leftist electoral victories from Mexico to Chile. These regimes are hostile to American interests and private enterprise, breed corruption, implement radical policies that will further impoverish their people and threaten their democracies, and are more open to striking partnerships with communist China. Left-wing authoritarian kleptocracies in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela deny their people basic freedoms, violently and ruthlessly suppress any dissent, repress communities of faith, and generate such misery that hundreds of thousands of their citizens have attempted to cross our southern border over the past 2 years. Yeah, it's all because of leftists. That's why. Yep, that's why. You cracked the code. Good job. no recent administration has made any progress in reducing the chaos and desperation in Haiti. Conversely, Latin America is a major global source of energy and food, which generates substantial income that can finance internal social and economic development. The nations of the hemisphere share a natural and massive geographic trade and investment advantage through their proximity to the United States, supplemented by free trade agreements. The United States remains a favored destination for higher education and business opportunities for Latin Americans. Successful diasporas in the United States serve as powerful economic, cultural, and political bridges to every country in the region. The Trump administration, Part 1, focused on promoting trade and investment, especially in infrastructure, through an interagency effort called America Crece, America Grows, by which USAID played a key role in providing technical assistance to create a more enabling environment to attract private investment. Oh, God. The Biden administration canceled the program. The next conservative administration, i.e., Trump, i.e., right now, I've got cat fur all over me right now, should reassess all programs of U.S. foreign aid to Latin America and terminate those that have failed to achieve results after years of effort. Instead, USAID should focus its resources on strengthening the fundamentals of free markets, such as clear property rights and a functioning judiciary, and on promoting labor and pension reforms, lower taxes, and deregulation in order to increase trade and investment within the region, and with the United States as the genuine path to economic and political stability. Okay. Sure. Challenge the socialist ideas that have captured too many of the region's governments and their nation's youth. This sounds like it was written by like Bob Dole or something. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, fund partnerships with the private sector and support civil society groups, including university centers and think tanks that advocate for pro-free market and democratic ideas. Finally, Latin America is the perfect proving ground for reducing USAID's reliance on large US-based implementers, and the agency should commit to shifting all of its portfolio in the region to local organizations by 2030. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay, let's copy and paste this into our notes here. Man, that's really fucked up. Alright. Put in there, back to it. Personnel. The Trump administration agenda for USAID was undercut from the outset, both by recalcitrant career personnel and by inexperienced political personnel. The next conservative administration, i.e. Donald Trump, i.e. right now, should implement personnel policies from the beginning so that the agency can be effectively managed according to high standards. The rapid deployment of reforms will require key experienced personnel installed quickly at USAID's headquarters and missions. Delay will only impede progress. In general, areas of focus. Hey! Hi, welcome. Areas of focus should be appointing effective lawyers in key positions, reforming career hiring, firing mechanisms, and getting a grip on the grant-making process. Getting a grip on, okay. The administration should staff the Office of the General Counsel with at least 4 politically appointed attorneys besides the General Counsel. Interesting. Sorry, my body's really hurting. The administration should staff the General Counsel. 4 politically. General Counsel should have 2 political deputies, one of whom should cover human capital and talent management, and the other, the Office of Acquisition and Assistance. The administration should name a political appointee with long experience in federal personnel systems as USAID's Chief Human Capital Officer and Director of HCTM. This appointee would help to scope and shepherd position descriptions, clearances, and other components of the hiring process that are necessary for immediate onboarding, while coordinating with the White House to bring in new appointees and make internal career employee changes. On day one, USAID should halt all agency-wide training and replace it with training modules to advance the president's agenda. The administration should appoint a senior accountable official, SAO, wait, we gotta put this in our notes here. This is wild. This is insane-o. Shit. Hold on a sec. Fuck. Okay. They are well known. Okay. What the fuck? There we go. Just go ahead and paste that all in because that is a little thing that they said out loud at their whole chest. Yeah. So, anyway. That's horrible. Okay. So, again, backing up, the administration should appoint a senior accountable official, SAO, to report on the agency's adherence to administration policy priorities, including on protecting life and foreign assistance. Critical race theory. Okay. Climate change things that. I'll take things that don't happen for 1,000, Alex. Jesus Christ. Critical race theory, really, at USAID. Okay. Just in case there are any corporate attorneys afoot or anything like that. Climate change, just FYI, critical race theory, in case you don't know, is a legal theory. It's not a real thing that's like being taught at school or something, or that needs to be present in a company's policies. It's literally a legal concept about how the law affects racism, affects AFF-ECTS racism. It's not, and the legal system and the justice system basically affects racism. It's not like some shit that's being taught to kindergartners, right? So, in between them using cat boxes to go to the bathroom or whatever. Anyway, that's just some wild nonsense, but fair enough, whatever. Moving on. So yeah, critical race theory, climate change, gender diversity, and inclusion. It should also create a program to staff hard-to-fill positions overseas. Finally, the administration should create a recruiting program for veterans and other groups to participate in career job opportunities at USAID. Former missionaries, veterans, members of diasporas, and faith community stakeholders, i.e., send it all to churches, guys, with overseas experience should be recruited to work at USAID. Should they? On Schedule A appointments as institutional services contractors, as personal services contractors, and as foreign service contractors. Conclusion: the next conservative administration will have a unique opportunity to realign U.S. foreign assistance with American national interests and the principles of good governance, and more accurately reflect the United States taxpayers' unmatched charitable desire to help those in need. It can build on a strong baseline of conservative reforms undertaken by the Trump administration to counter Communist China's strategy of world domination. However, this will require that bold steps are taken on day one to undo the gross misuse of foreign aid by the current administration to promote a radical ideology that is politically divisive at home and harms our global standing. So we're moving on to the next section here. I'm just going to add this on in to our notes. Section 3. The general welfare. That sounds ominous. I don't know. Section 3, the general. Okay. Alright, hold on a sec. One quick blippity blippin' second here. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm coming. Don't you ever feel sad. Lean on me. Times are bad. When the day comes when you're in doubt, in a river of trouble, and about to drown. Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming. Reach out to me. Satisfaction. Call my name. Quick reaction. Alright, let's just put that there. General welfare. Singing you some BB King. I don't know, that song's been. I don't even know who the original progenitor, let's say, of that song is, the original creator. Okay, so the general welfare. I think I'm gonna pick this up tomorrow morning. I am not sure what time it's gonna be. I have a fuck ton of work to do. I have an ass ton of calls to return. I don't know. It could be early. It could be a little bit later. I would say follow to see when I'm available and to tune in. I'll try to leave these live streams up on YouTube, and if you have any questions, you can ask. I don't always see the comment section there because I'm not like a YouTuber per se. I'm more of a streamer, but you're always welcome to ask any questions and join the Discord to ask some questions and to add to the notes. Okay, that's the best way to get a hold of me.